Good evening. Good evening. I'm really not expecting many to be on this evening because it is Friday here in Texas, actually all over the place. No, but just uh, what excuse me, what we're going to do today is because we missed our meeting on yesterday. And I do apologize to everyone that was anticipating on attending on last evening. I do apologize. Work ran over, and you know how that goes sometimes. So, aside from that, I definitely want you all to know that I do apologize for missing our meeting on last evening, but I had to make it up this evening because we have a lot of things coming ahead of us. And we didn't want anyone to be left out, right? So thorough communication is definitely very important. Aside from that, I'm having some technical difficulties. What's my Whataburger band? Stop looking at my Whataburger band. Um, no, but I have uh an array of different things that, of course, we have going on within the association. And then on top of the engagements that we have coming up. So we definitely wanted to make time with what we had. So again, I definitely want to thank you all for attending our comprehensive um, exploratory scenario plannings. And again, my name is Christopher Jones, the acting president of the South End Charlton-Pollard Community Association here in Beaumont, Texas. And we are, engaging in scenario plannings as well as defining areas for resiliency and areas of health disparities and or inequities. So with that being said, like I said, I am having some technical difficulties. It was not allowing me to share my screen. Yeah, so it's still not allowing me to share my screen. But what I do have it. We are streaming also on Facebook Live on our Facebook profile at South End Charlton-Pollard GHCA. I'm sorry, South End Charlton-Pollard Greater Historic Community Association. You could definitely tune in live there or check us out in a few days. We'll definitely upload this video to our YouTube channel as well. Without further ado, we definitely wanted to let everybody know that we are conducting exploratory scenario plannings, workshops, and these are our discussions. So our workshops happen as an individual, one-on-one, and or in a group. And that group is very small. I like to call it block meetings, where a neighbor would introduce or invite their block neighbors um, to come and hear about and or engage in the mapping process and or the surveys that we have. And so, um, being that we are conducting exploratory scenarios, of course, some of the exploratories are a bit far-fetched. But in today's type of environment and climate, um, I'm not going to say change, but in today's environment and climate, um, we can expect what we have seen in our recent past to get worse and or um, things that we have never seen in our lifetime. to actually happen in our community. So that's where the exploratory portions come in. The public health is again to address helping us to identify and address social and economic environmental determinants uh, of health through participatory research and geospatial analysis. Again, this is community work, 100% community engagement, community work. Why my shirt look like that? um, but yes, that's what we're doing. So we're doing the exploratory scenarios as well as health disparities and inequities. And we're sort of tying those two programs into what we know as the uh, after the aftermath integrated health and air conversations. And so on today, just to give you a brief update of where we've been and what we currently have going on now. So in the past, we have, engaged with neighbors all over the city of Beaumont. It started, of course, here in the South End community. But over the time, of course, we knowing that to be resilient, it takes more than just us who live in the South End. And so our engagement began to broaden up outside of the neighborhood association or the boundaries of the neighborhood association, and integrated workshops as well as town hall meetings where individuals can participate and engage. So we had a town hall meeting a few months back where it was based on, flooding and preparation. Of course, that particular day, we also had a representative from NOAA, the weather uh, agency of the United States, or even of the globe, I think. Um, but they attended our first workshop and um, was so eager and ready to give us a tabletop scenario, but that particular day rained out extremely bad. Okay. And so we weren't able to engage with the tabletop scenario so that we can see how storm surge actually happens in here, right? And so as we continue um, to engage more with the community, we've also been able to, again, like I said, identify mapping uh, issues or ways to identify issues through mapping. And so our color association for our interactive mapping assignment that we've also uh, developed is, I'm sorry, um, the interactive mapping assignment that we've developed will be visible representation using color-coded push pins on a large map of each ward. And so our partners that we're working with throughout all of almost every university in the state of Texas and outside of Texas is, engaging with our community, and we are engaging with them to bring about this type of information and engagement as well. And so, of course, we were able to um, engage with our community, identify, health disparities like cancer, diabetes, respiratory problems, skin, eczema, hair, different things disparities or health issues, health services. I'm sorry, health. Purple is health disparities. Pink is health services access. Green is food and nutrition. Blue is utilities and infrastructure. Red is natural disasters. Clear is human accidents and industrial hazards. Black is safety and security of the particular area. Our scenario planning, again, um, has an array of different engagements from the city of Beaumont to Jefferson County, to Texas A&M, University of Texas, Prairie View A&M, University of Kentucky. Um, yeah, it's a lot of different universities, including the Institute of Land Policy, Lincoln Institute of Land Policy, uh, you know, graced us with this opportunity to participate in their known scenario plans, right? And so, like, luckily, our neighborhood association is the first ever neighborhood association to participate in these scenario planning. So I'm assuming ours may be a little different than most businesses, corporations, and governments, right? And so, um, exciting as we are, we definitely want to let everyone know about, what all we've come up with so far. So, step four, I guess, I'm sorry, step three was identifying critical uncertainties. That's what, we've been doing here lately. I'm sorry, let me roll back. Um, Step one is brainstorming and identifying driving forces. Again, city government plans focus on urban redevelopment, public service improvements, and climate resilience. Port of Beaumont and industrial expansion throughout the area consists of economic growth versus environmental impact. Climate change and environmental risks, increased frequency of severe weather events, pollution, and infrastructure challenges. Social and economic disparities, um, inequities in education, job access, health outcomes, and food security. Again, that was in our brainstorming. Uh, Second portion, step two was ranking driving forces. Of course, a high impact, high uncertainty is climate change, industrial expansion, economic redevelopment. High impact, low uncertainty, city government plans, and infrastructure needs, community equity policies, different things like that. Low impact, high uncertainty, of course, um, public transit developments, demographic changes, environmental regulations. And the demographic changes I want to really let people know about is some of the things that we've been seeing here in the area, especially in areas that have been flooding more frequently, is like buyouts. So again, population shift or population change. One area was at one time considered to be fruitfully populated, whereas now it's despaired in residential equity, quality, access. So a lot of that is definitely um, a part of our studies as well. Um, Step three is identifying critical uncertainties by rating the impact of climate change, scale of industrial expansion at the Port of Beaumont, ExxonMobil, the new um, ammonia plant that's coming. We don't know the name of that one yet, as well as, Golden Triangle storage and any other uh, industrial expansion and or new growth that we may find in the area or may have in the area. To include the asphalt plants that are now prevalent, as well as the concrete plants that are more prevalent than before. Again, these are all the things that we're gathering and taking in, not only from the South End, because not all that can fit in the South End and keep us where we are, but this is happening throughout the entire city, from one side to the next, right? And so our step four was creating the scenario matrix. Of course, scenario one was resilient growth, high economic growth, effective climate adaptation, inclusive development. Scenario two, unequal prosperity, high economic growth, ineffective climate adaptation, increased disparities. Scenario 3, sustainable stagnation, low economic growth, effective climate adaptation, persistent inequities. Scenario 4, vulnerable decline, low economic growth, ineffective climate adaptation, widespread vulnerability. Step 5 was developing scenario narratives. Of course, like I said, scenario 1 was resilient growth. Beaumont thrives economically and environmentally with increased growth benefiting all communities. Scenario 2 was unequal prosperity. Economic success is unevenly distributed with environmental risks exacerbating social disparities. Scenario 3, sustainable stagnation. Efforts are strong, but economic opportunities are limited, leading to persistent inequalities. And that's from A to B, okay? And someone mentioned, like, I think that's where we are now, Chris, is scenario 3. Scenario 4, vulnerable decline. Economic and environmental challenges lead to community decline and deepening social disparities. Common to all scenario narratives, all scenarios address the need for continuous infrastructure investment, community engagement, and policy interventions to mitigate disparities and prepare for environmental hazards. Expected outcomes and impact, again, just to brief, enhance community resilience, improve public health and data systems, policy and community benefits. Project deliverables to the Lincoln Institute is a comprehensive report synthesizing findings from scenario planning workshops and geospatial health determinants analysis. And so case studies documenting the integrated approach and its application to real world scenarios. And number 3, guides and toolkits for replicating the disaster resilience and public health improvement approach in other communities. So we're doing this not only to gather data for our happenings and ongoings here in the community in the South End, but we're also looking to, through the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy, share, what we went through so that other communities can understand as well. And so normally I would say any questions. So that's what we have so far. So identifying, defining, the X, Y, and a possibly Z axis is where we have been in our discussions here lately. X axis, of course, is economic and industrial development. Y-axis is climate resilience and environmental sustainability. Of course, the X-axis, economic and industrial development, the definition is the axis represents the level of economic growth and industrial expansion in the Beaumont area, including the Port of Beaumont and other industries in the area. It reflects the impact of industrial activities on local economy, employment opportunities, and the environment. Low economic and industrial growth, sluggish economic activity, limited industrial expansion, lower job creation, potential economic stagnation, less pressure on environmental resources, but also fewer resources for community development. High economic and industrial growth, rapid industrial expansion, increased job opportunities and economic prosperity, higher environmental risks, including pollution and industrial accidents, potential for gentrification and displacement of vulnerable communities like ours. On the Y-axis is climate resilience and environmental sustainability. Again, the definition, the axis represents the community's ability to adapt to climate change and manage environmental challenges. excuse me, it includes the effectiveness of policies, infrastructure, and community initiatives aimed at mitigating the impacts of severe weather, pollution, and other environmental risks. Low climate resilience and environmental sustainability is on the far right, are considered to be the low. Ineffective climate adaptation measures, frequent and severe environmental disasters, deterioration infrastructure and public health, uh, increased vulnerability and communities of environmental hazards. On the high end of the y-axis is high climate resilience and environmental sustainability, effective climate adaptation strategies, strong environmental protection and sustainability initiatives, resilient infrastructure, and improved public health outcomes. Communities are well prepared for environmental challenges. Now, I did say we could possibly do an x-axis, and that's something that individuals that we are engaging with almost daily now has also recommended the definition for the z-axis. Sorry, so that's x, y, z-axis, social equity and community cohesion. This axis represents the degree of social equity, inclusiveness, and cohesion within the community. It reflects how well different segments of the population are integrated in economic, social, and political processes, and whether resources and opportunities are distributed fairly. And that's one of the main reasons why we would like to add the z-axis, is because some of the communications we've gotten from residents is, oh, well, I didn't know that these resources even were in the city or are available for me to get, right? So on the low section of the z-axis, social equity and community cohesion, widening social disparities and inequalities. Marginalized communities are excluded from decision making. That seems to be happening currently. Lack of access to resources, education, and healthcare for vulnerable populations. Weak community ties and fragmented social networks. Cliques is what they say. On the high end of the z-axis is high social equity and community cohesion, strong focus on equity, inclusion, diversity, and social justice. All community members have fair access to resources and opportunities. Active participation of all groups in decision-making processes. Strong community ties and robust social networks. So that's us using the axis to help us develop scenarios. And so we have a few scenarios. Again, scenario 1 is resilient growth. Scenario 2 is unequal prosperity. Scenario 3 is sustainable stagnation. Scenario 4, and that's within the axis, y'all, is vulnerable decline, right? And so in that, we have gotten input from quite a few neighbors when it comes to helping us identify some of the particular tabletop and or tabletop or simulated scenario. And so what we have done is, in our engagements throughout the entire community, again, if you haven't engaged with us on these issues, 9 times out of 10, you haven't brought this conversation up. Because I mean, we're talking about it all the time. So the single issue scenarios and dual or multi-faceted issue scenarios is how we came up with some of our scenarios to sort of kind of play with, right? And see how it affects us as residents of the area, and also see if the county, city, and state and other industries around us are available or would be willing, uh, to participate with us in these scenarios as well. And of course, like I said, we do have individuals, but this also gives them the opportunity to find out if they are. So give me a second. Oh, yeah, if it was me or was it the camera? Okay, so um just a second. I got a message. All right. All right. So, like I was saying, so we went through an array of potentials, right? Scenarios. So we got single issue scenario. One is urban earthquake impacting critical infrastructure. Theme is seismic activity. Scenario is an 6.0 earthquake strikes Beaumont, damaging roads, bridges, and buildings, including hospitals and schools. Key challenges that we can already identify. Um, Emergency response delays, infrastructure repair needs, and temporary displacement of residents. Pertinent questions would be, what immediate actions can be taken to secure critical infrastructure? How can we ensure uh, how can we ensure continuity of healthcare and education during recovery? Our recommendations that from best practices and from our neighbors are, let me turn this way so I can actually look at you. I can actually you all look at me. So the recommendations from best practices in our community is conduct seismic retrofitting of public buildings, establish rapid response teams, and invest in resilient infrastructural design. Um, Scenario two is industrial explosion and toxic gas release. Theme, industrial accident. Scenario, refinery explosion release toxic gases over residential areas, necessitating immediate shelter in place orders. Key challenges, health impacts, communication breakdown, and public panic. Pertinent questions, what systems need to be in place to alert the public in real time? How do we handle mass decontamination and medical treatment? Recommendations, enhance industrial safety protocols, install real-time monitoring systems, and train community responders in hazardous material containment. Now, the ironic piece of this, all of these scenarios is the last time we met um here, I think it was at around the third or something like that nature. But since our last meeting, this actual scenario happened. It wasn't a mass explosion of anything, but there was definitely a gas release or gas leak. Um, and there was a shelter in place that was orchestrated through the STAN, South Texas Alert Network. Um, uh, so yeah, we had this scenario happen already, right? And people from the past, or people older than we are, or older than I am, have also alluded to, this being an incident before from one of our industrial neighbors, but have said that it was way worse than what we experienced on last Tuesday. And so ironically, like I said, um, to neighbors and others, it's ironic that we're doing we're doing scenario planning and preparation and building resiliency, and pops out one of an area of, an area in scenarios that needs to be considered. Again, scenario 3, mass shooting at a university campus. Because we have Lamar University in our close area, we decided to go with the university campus. But also to understand that it also happens in elementary, middle school, and high school campuses as well. And so this scenario is befitting for not only our universities and institutions, higher learning institutions, but our grade level institutions as well. Mass shooting at a university campus. Theme is public safety and security. Scenario: a mass shooting occurs on a university campus, causing casualties and triggering a citywide lockdown. Key challenges: managing mass panic, coordinating law enforcement responses, and supporting victims. Pertinent questions: how can we enhance campus security measures? What mental health resources should be available post-incident? Recommendations: strengthen active shooter drills, establish rapid communication lines between campus and local police, and provide community mental health support. And that, again, that's whether it's on the university campus or any one of our local grade level institution, educational institution. Scenario 4, flooding due to hurricane storm surge. Theme is natural disaster flooding. The scenario is a Category 4 Category 4 hurricane hits, resulting in extensive flooding of low-lying neighborhoods. Key challenges are evacuations, property damage, and prolonged power. Excuse me. Pertinent questions is: how do we prioritize evacuations in high-risk areas? And I'm sure they may have that outlined from previous studies and the county, right? And maybe even the city have that outlined due to previous instances, but we don't. And so we would definitely like to give our feedback to those particulars so that they can be considered as well. So recommendations is improve flood defense, create comprehensive education plans, and develop community shelter, or identify community shelter. Scenario 5 is cyber attack on the power grid. Theme is cybersecurity threat. Scenario is a cyber attack disables the local power grid, causing a citywide blackout during extreme heat condition. Key challenges is healthcare disruptions, increased risk of heat-related illnesses, and communication failure. Pertinent questions: how can we protect critical infrastructure from cyber threats? What backup power options are available for essential services? Recommendations is implement stronger cybersecurity protocols, invest in backup generators for hospitals, and promote public awareness of emergency preparedness. Scenario 6 is chemical spill in water supply. Theme is environmental hazard. Scenario is a chemical spill contaminates the local water supply, forcing communities to rely on bottled water for weeks. Yeah, and I think we stuck that one in there because during what was it, Harvey, we lost water for quite a few days. And so we definitely had to throw a little rock in there right fast, because the disruption of water during Harvey, and we know Last year during the drought or extreme dry weather that we were having, water was also cut back, or water usage was regulated. Um, so we definitely want to, be able to prepare ourselves accordingly. Um, Wildfire threatening urban areas, theme fire hazard scenario. A wildfire spreads from rural areas into the city limits, threatening homes and causing poor air quality throughout. Key challenges: evacuations, firefighting resource allocations, and protecting vulnerable populations. Pertinent questions is, how do we create fire banks to protect urban areas, especially with us having a lot of houses, 1 story, 2 story, brick homes, wood homes, businesses, gas stations, industry, all of that. And so, right, that has to all be factored in. What evacuation routes are safest during a wildfire? And I don't know if we've had one. So um we would have to, of course, meet with the emergency management to find that out as well. um Scenario 8 is pandemic causing school closures and remote learning gaps. Of course, we've had that, but we were not ready for the learning gaps. So the theme is public health crisis. Scenario is a viral outbreak forces schools to close, creating significant gaps in education access for lower income students. Key challenges is ensuring equitable access to technology, maintaining educational standards, and supporting teachers and parents. Pertinent questions are, what resources can be provided to bridge the digital divide, and how can we support mental health needs of students and staff during prolonged closure? Recommendations are provide technology access programs, develop alternative learning platforms, and integrate mental health services in school. Scenario 9 is civil unrest following a controversial court ruling and or police incident. Theme is social unrest. Scenario is a controversial court ruling leads to protests, or officer involved shooting leads to protests, some of which turn violent, disrupting daily life in the city. Key challenges: ensuring public safety, protecting property, and managing community tensions. Our pertinent questions are, how do we balance public safety with the right to protest? What communication strategies can de-escalate conflict? Recommendations: strengthen community police engagement programs, establish protest safety protocols, and create open forums for dialogue, as well as conflict resolution. Scenario 10, single scenario, might I add, is major transportation accident blocking key highways. And we see this all the time, y'all. We see this all the time, even when it's just construction, right? So, of course, a major accident will be delayed even further, right? And so the theme is transportation and infrastructure. The scenario is a major accident involving hazardous material blocks Interstate 10, cutting off a crucial and critical route and creating a health hazard. Key challenges is traffic rerouting, hazardous material containment, and timely public alert. Pertinent questions: what alternative routes can be used to minimize disruptions? How can we improve hazardous material handling protocols during transport? Our recommendations are develop detailed rerouting plans, enhance hazmat response training, and invest in real-time traffic and incident communication system. So with that being said, I would definitely like for our residents of the city of Beaumont to apply with the City of Beaumont Police Department, Beaumont Fire Department, and the City of Beaumont, because all of this is going to take manpower, right? Not just from the neighborhood or just from the city, but the county as well. So yes, multi-scenarios. Multi-scenario one is hurricane and industrial chemical spill. Themes: natural disaster and environmental hazard. Scenario is a hurricane causes storm surges that flood industrial sites, releasing hazardous chemicals into neighborhoods. Key challenges is evacuations, containment of homes, long-term health impacts, pertinent questions. How do we safely evacuate and protect against chemical exposure? What long-term recovery plans can be addressed both storm damage and contamination? Recommendations is integrate storm and hazmat response protocol, conduct community drills, and improve industrial site safety. Multi-scenario two is simultaneous wildfire and earthquake. Themes are seismic activity and fire hazard. Scenario is an earthquake triggers gas line ruptures, causing multiple wildfires in urban and rural areas. Key challenges is coordinating firefighting efforts while managing structural damage and rescue operations. Pertinent questions: how can emergency services prioritize between firefighting and search and rescue? What community resources can be mobilized quickly? Recommendations are cross-train firefighters and rescue teams, develop joint incident command structures, and establish gas line safety protocol. Multi-scenario three is pandemic and cyber attack on health systems. Themes are public health crisis, cyber security threat. And one of the main reasons is we're starting to see that a lot, especially with, you know, our counterparts, whether it's domestic terrorists or you know, a foreign terrorist. So yeah, these are, especially cyber attacks, they're happening more frequently. And believe it or not, the random phone calls that, you know, some of our seniors and some of us may get is a slight measure of a cyber attack. Somebody leaked your information or sold your information, and this is, you know, the end results thereof. So key challenges in cyber attack on health systems during scenario during a severe viral outbreak. A cyber attack disrupts hospital systems, compromise patient care. Key challenges are delayed medical responses, compromised patient data, and public distrust in healthcare facilities. Pertinent questions: how can we safeguard critical health infrastructure from cyber threats during public health emergencies? What contingency plans can maintain patient care when digital systems fail? Recommendations: strengthen cybersecurity in healthcare, train staff in online medical operations, and develop public information campaigns. Mass shooting during flood evacuation. Themes are public safety and flooding. Scenario: during an evacuation of a major flood, a mass shooting occurs at an evacuation center, causing chaos and complicating rescue efforts. Key challenges are coordinating emergency response, ensuring safety of evacuees, and managing public fear. Potential questions are: how do we ensure the security of evacuation sites? What protocols can quickly address dual emergency like such? Recommendations: designate secure evacuation zones, enhance security at emergency shelters, and develop joint police and emergency response drills. Multi-scenario 5 is chemical plant explosion and terroristic threat. Themes are industrial accident and terrorism. Scenario, a chemical plant explosion coincides with a credible terrorist threat, leading to widespread fear and confusion. Excuse me. Key challenges are managing industrial accident response while addressing a potential terror attack. Pertinent questions. How do we prioritize responses when facing multiple threats? And what public communication strategies can reduce panic? Recommendations are establish a multi-threat incident command structure, pre-plan response sequence, and train community on dual threat preparedness. Cyber attack on power grid during a heat wave. We had to come back with it because themes are cybersecurity and extreme weather. Scenario is a cyber attack disrupts the power grid during an extreme heat wave, endangering vulnerable population. Key challenges, heat-related illness, lack of cooling centers, and prolonged outages. Pertinent questions. How do we protect critical infrastructure from cyber threats during extreme weather events? And what backup systems can support vulnerable populations? Recommendations are invest in microgrids and decentralized power sources. Develop cooling center networks, and establish public emergency plans. Multi-scenario 7 is tornado hits industrial area causing chemical fires. Themes, severe weather, industrial hazard. Scenario is a tornado strikes an industrial zone, igniting chemical fires that threaten surrounding communities. And again, it's not just ExxonMobil, because we have chemical industries far as Baton Rouge, as far as Houston, and those are just some of the ways I know that individuals will head east or west, trying to escape from a storm that's or a situation that's coming from the south or north, right? And so this information is very, very, very pertinent, y'all. So let's see, key challenges: air and water contamination, resource allocation for firefighting and rescue, and sheltering displaced residents. Pertinent questions: how can we improve safety measures for industrial zones prone to severe weather? What are the best practices for community protection from hazardous fires? Recommendations are enforce stronger industrial safety standards, develop joint firefighting protocols, and educate the community on shelter-in-place order. Multi-scenario 8 is drought and wildfire leading to water restrictions. Themes, environmental hazard, water scarcity. Scenario, severe drought conditions fuel wildfires and force strict water restrictions impacting residents and local agriculture. Key challenges: limited water supply for firefighting, increased health risks from poor air quality, and agricultural losses. Pertinent questions: how do we balance water use between firefighting and public consumption? What strategies can reduce fire risk during drought conditions? Recommendations: implement water-saving technologies, establish drought-resistant landscaping, and expand community fire prevention education. Multi-scenario 9 is flooded roads disrupting emergency services. Themes are infrastructural failure and flooding. Scenario: major flooding submerges critical roadways, delaying emergency responses to accidents and medical emergency. Key challenges are accessibility issues for first responders, increased risk of accidents, and resource reallocation. Pertinent questions: how can we ensure emergency services reach those in need during severe flooding? What infrastructure improvements can mitigate road flooding? Recommendations: elevate critical roads, create flood-resistant emergency routes, and equip responders with amphibious vehicles. Multi-scenario 10 is mass evacuation due to dam failure. And I bet you like, we don't have no dams by us. We don't, but there is dams upriver and we live downriver. And so that was, something that we would definitely have to consider. Also, if we did not mention water contamination or an accident that leads to water contamination, that too is one of our scenarios that's in the mix. So mass evacuation due to dam failure, themes: infrastructural collapse, mass displacement. Scenario: a dam failure upriver forces the evacuations of thousands downriver, displacing communities and creating an urgent need for shelter and resources. Key challenges: coordinate mass evacuations, providing essential services, and ensuring safety during evacuation. Pertinent questions: what emergency evacuation routes can handle large populations quickly? How can we provide immediate relief and long-term housing solutions for evacuees? And the recommendations are: develop comprehensive evacuation plans, establish temporary housing sites, and engage community volunteers in relief efforts. Again, this structured approach for our scenario plannings are very detailed, and a lot of them come from our greater community. Like I said, not just neighbors of the South End have the availability to participate in these ongoing. So we do invite and would like to hear from more neighbors as we continue into our next phase or our next process of building resiliency here in the city of Beaumont. Of course, normally, like I said, we do have others on so that they can ask questions and maybe or give feedback. But you have more than enough opportunity to engage with us via our social media and our, again, YouTube channels, South End Charlton-Pollard or SEC, PGHCA, South End Charlton-Pollard Greater Historic Community Association. We will be meeting again. Let me pull that up right fast. I do apologize for that. And here it is. My apologies all. So, we will be meeting again on, where is it? I do apologize about that, everyone. Maybe I didn't grab the right one. Awesome, awesome. So, today is September the 20th, Friday, September 20th. Of course, we missed our meeting yesterday, which it was our group discussions for September 19th, 2024 from 6 to 8. Our next meeting will be group discussions on Tuesday, October 8th, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 2. 9 times out of 10, we will be at the American Legion, 1320 Pennsylvania Avenue. Uh, there is most of the times breakfast or something to munch on that's served. Uh, Meeting after that is October 24th, from 6 to 8. Our second town hall meeting is around November 9th. We're working on the details of location and time. For that, again, that's November 9th. Quarterly check-in meeting with Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. Um, that's the week of November 11th. Draft toolkit report and presentation. Again, that's going to be done with our in like our group discussions. That will be Thursday, December 18th from 6 to 8. Quarterly check-in meeting with Lincoln Institute Land Policy. That is the week of January 6th. That'll probably be in the morning sometime. Wrap up town hall and final presentation, date, time, and location. Details will be communicated. And then finally, our quarterly check-in, Zoom meeting with Lincoln Land Institute Land Policy. And of course, by then we'll either have submitted everything that we've done, including steps on how to go about it, identifying ways to build resiliency on a community or on a neighborhood association level. So I'm sure, excuse me, that businesses, and I know that militaries or the military, whenever they plan their scenarios, I know what they go through now. It's different to engage in that study or in that process, or build yourself um, into familiarity, right? But if you're doing the scenarios yourself, I mean, it does take quite a bit of engagement from neighbors, especially on a community level, on a geospatial level. And so I do ask, if you are all interested in engaging with us, please attend and or join us on Zoom so that we can get your information, get your feedback, and hopefully go from there. Again, I do thank you all for attending this evening. I didn't want to be before you long, but again, thank you for participating and engaging. Y'all have a good night. God bless.